Hello and welcome to Why Postliberalism Failed podcast. This is season two, episode 8. It's August. Oh, no, it's September 5th, 25. I almost said 2015. Time is a flat circle. Today, we have Thomas Howes, of course, my co author, but also the one and only Joel Berry. He's managing editor at the Babylon Bee and co author of the Postmodern Pilgrim's Progress. Never let it be said we're not ecumenical. This is our not our just our first, but second Protestant on the podcast. Thank you so much for coming, Mr. Barry.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for having me. You guys are all I have left. I don't think Tucker will have me on anymore, or Aaron McIntyre will invite me back on. So I had to go to the Catholics. I had no choice.
That's right. A
Yeah,
Catholic who's like in a room full of unpacked boxes, and I don't even know where Thomas is. Looks, he's in a bunker, you know, for
yeah. Well,
the
my
remnant
office.
here. So, Joel, you've had similar to us run-ins with who we would call post-liberals, although yours are on the Protestant side of things. How does it look over there? What's going on?
Boy, it's weird. Obviously this loose coalition on the right held together to get Trump elected, which, thank God for that. But then, we became the dog that caught the car and
Mm,
kind of didn't know what to do. A couple things happened. That uh, one thing that happened was, a lot of us kind of remained stuck in dissident mode. Being the outsiders, being the critics, fighting kind of big tech, big media, big pharma, the elites. And then suddenly we're in charge. We've won the election, and it's time to govern. Now it's time to be in charge, and a lot of us are kind of locked in dissident mode. And the other thing that kind of happened was this coalition started to crack up, and you started to see, um, a lot of these, factions of the right that were opposing the left, but kind of doing so for different reasons, and they also have a different vision of what America should look like. And so that's a lot of what we're seeing now is, um, I am I was raised a Christian. I've been a right winger my whole life. I'm a Rush baby. Grew up listening to Rush Limbaugh, um, and so all of those kind of standard conservative opinions. But maybe more in a Rush Limbaugh style, more dissident, more a little more, a lot more conservative than say Romney and Bush and things like that. But
hmm
um, uh, and then you have this emerging integralism. You see it a lot in Catholicism, I think a lot
mhm.
more,
Yeah.
obviously, but there's this emerging Protestant integralism, particularly like on the kind of the more like Reformed side of Protestantism, that the Calvinist, theonomists, Christian nationalists, um, and the common theme that I see is this. Well, it's kind of like a similar to what we saw in fighting against wokeness and gender ideology and all these lies, these cultural lies that were so oppressive from the left. We're suddenly seeing kind of that same approach from these guys towards what they call the post-war consensus, the this narrative that we've been told all of this time that America is the good guys, and that we're all created equal, and um, you know things that we generally kind of accept as being part of the American ethos. They're all being questioned now. Everything's kind of being questioned and deconstructed, and we're asking a lot of these questions. Why this, why that, why do we believe this, where did this come from? um, and a lot of it is being brought about by mass migration. You have millions of Somalis just being dropped off in the midwestern town of Minnesota. That brings about the question, what is an American? A lot of people are asking that now. And so a lot of what I've been doing, especially on Twitter, the kind of these spats that I've been getting into with people like Aaron McIntyre, Jack Posevich, people like that, is, I think it's very important that in the process of solving these problems, we don't lose what America is. We cannot lose our soul in the process of fighting what the damage that the left has done over the last 60 years. Um, and so yeah, it's been weird. It's been weird to see how alliances have shifted and how people who were huge fans of me just a year ago now, call me a leftist, communist, liberal, subversive, Jew, whatever, whatever
Yeah, we've both
the
been called
derog.
Jews before too.
Yep.
Yeah,
We're
yeah.
we're like,
And that's
okay,
the
we're fine with that. I mean,
that's the other common vein, is the anti-Semitism, and I think it does spring from this desire that a lot of people have to have a simple explanation for all of our problems. Um, we're facing a lot of issues. A lot of them are complex. The solutions are complex. We want something simple. It's easy to just blame one thing. The Jews seem to be what pops up over the ages, over the last 2,000 years. It's happened again and again. Um, and that we want the simple solution of you know you almost get this sense from a lot of these guys that they feel that if we were to just, you know, deport everybody, uh, deport all the ones we don't want here, all of our problems will be solved. All of our problems stem from mass migration or the fact that we're not ethnically homogenous or racially or religiously homogenous. If we just did that, all of our problems would be solved. And that's my contention is not that we don't need to solve the problem, it's that no, that's not going to solve everything. We need to retain what America is all about, the character and spirit of America. And so that's kind of the my meandering explanation of what we're fighting for right now, I guess.
So, what do you make of the the differences between what you see and what Catholics are dealing with, like us, and what Protestants are dealing with? Because the one thing I've heard a few times and I'm sympathetic to is that in a way Catholics being kind of foreign, right? Like most cases coming from immigrant waves after the colonization of the United States, they don't have as easy a claim to the country the way that Protestants do, and hence they see themselves as like quote heritage Americans or like the arbiters of what it means to be American by dint of their religious denomination. Is that accurate?
Um, so let me make sure I understand you. So you're saying that since Catholics, that America was founded as a Protestant nation, Catholics maybe came along later as a part of immigration. You think that maybe that's where the fight over heritage America is coming from?
Yeah, it seems like when you talk to Protestants that you're dealing with, that's they kind of this is our country, right? Whereas and when I'm dealing with or when Tom's dealing with Catholics, it's always like, well, this is going to be our country once we're done with, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, no, there is that sense to where I almost feel like the a lot of the Catholic integralist attitude is that okay, Protestants, you had your chance.
yeah, yeah,
Look where we are now. Look at the moral chaos and the mass migration and the rainbow flag insanity that we're dealing with in our culture right now. It's time for, as Tucker famously said in that speech, for daddy to come home, kind of lay down the gauntlet, and impose a little more order to this chaotic world. And I think that's the big attraction that people have toward Catholicism right now is that our world is so chaotic. This post-truth, post-modern culture is so confusing and messed up. Catholicism at least offers a sense of order and tradition and so I think that's why a lot of people are moving toward it and why a lot of people may be more um, friendly to the idea of okay, Catholics, let's try your way. Um, you know, And so I get that. I understand the feeling. I understand the frustration people have. Um, but I I I don't want to live in a European country.
Hmm.
You know, um, we've seen what a church that's married to the state, all the things that that does. We saw what happened in Russia. The backlash against the church and state, the marriage of the church and state in Russia was so drastic. They had 100 years of atheism and communism and starvation and darkness because
Yeah.
the church became so associated with the state and the corruption of the state. The church lost all credibility and the state lost all credibility. And then you look at over at what's happened in Europe, where you do have a state church and places like the UK. you know, that approach didn't stem the tide of leftism or liberalism either.
Hmm.
And in a lot of cases, it seems to have done worse. And so, um, I do understand the desire for someone to come in with an iron fist and fix all this for us, but it's not gonna it's not gonna happen. And my solution to all this is something that it's like a hard road and people don't like it. G.K. Chesterton has this great quote, and I'm probably going to butcher it, but he said something like, Christianity hasn't been tried and found lacking. It's been tried and found hard. And so
Hmm.
people give up on it because it's hard. And the solution to all of this is really, it's got to come from the ground up. It's got to come from a place of spiritual revival at the grassroots where we have a virtuous citizenry again.
Yeah.
Um, you can't impose or force virtue from the top down. You can't impose morality from the top down. Obviously, you want moral laws, um, but a lot of this is going to have to come from Christians being evangelists
Hmm.
and making more Christians. And that's like a 50-year plan, and people want this
Hmm.
to be fixed now, and that's
Yeah.
that's not fun.
Mhm. Yeah, that's very insightful there. Yeah, that's right. It's like you're trying to get it's a not a get rich quick scheme, but like sort of make the culture a Christian scheme that's just going to backfire terribly, like you're saying, because people then associate the Christianity with the power that was imposing it or whatever, and creates resentment
Yeah.
anyways. So you're very much a very pro-America person then. You like America. You believe in the
Yeah.
Constitution and the Declaration of Independence. So that's good. You've got friends with us. We also like America. There are dozens of us, and
There are dozens of us. Well,
um,
the accusation for people like us is that we, subscribe to kind of like the normie boomer con fantasy of America, this idea of equal rights and equality between people before the law, and this idea that you can have a multi-ethnic society that works. Um, that's a lot of the stuff that's kind of getting thrown out with the bathwater right now. And
mhm,
I, it feels like we're the minority online, but I don't know if that's true in real life yet.
mhm.
That's my big question: is how much of this stuff online is actually translating to how people are offline.
Well, I do think it's important that, people with a big platform like yourself and, James Lindsay and it used to be Jordan Peterson before he's had really serious health issues,
Yeah,
would start to push back against some of this stuff. And I think that's important because what I've seen is a lot of normie old Republicans who started following these influencers because they were against the left, and it was like a frog in boiling water. Like they've just gradually they got them comfortable and then led them to these more radical ideas. And a lot of them aren't so online that they've been paying that close attention. And I think that they just don't realize how radical some of these people are that are trying to lead
yeah,
them into these radical places. So I think people like you
yeah.
pushing back, it kind of wakes them up to like, oh, so there is a problem on the right as well. Yeah.
I hope so. And the the danger with kind of what I'm doing and what Lindsay's doing is like this whole thing of it's the curse of being a prophet. It's like being right too early.
Hmm.
You know, uh, the prophet never gets credit in his time. It's always like 100 years later where people look back and go, "Oh, yeah, he was yeah, okay, yeah, he was right," you know. And
Yeah.
so, I don't want to like, I don't want to like uh, puff myself up like I'm some kind of a prophet or
No, no,
Lindsay's
but
some kind of a prophet or
it's a
anything. But
recurring theme for anybody who says
yeah,
something that's true when it's unpopular, that
yeah,
happens. Yeah.
yeah. And so, that I do sometimes run into this thing where, um, I'm dealing with genuine good faith conservatives who are good people, who, like you said, genuinely don't realize what some of these influencers are up to. And and I don't want to. I always try to. My approach is a little different from Lindsay's. Lindsay is he's a little more quick to make enemies than I am.
Hmm.
Um,
Seems to be very
I
good at it.
Yeah, he's very good at it, and he's very quick to like the minute a conservative influencer says something that could remotely be construed as like woke right, he's like, oh, he writes them off, and I'm a little more like, maybe it's naivety, I don't know, but I try to assume good faith for as long as I possibly can, until it's very clear that these people are bad actors. And so, um, I do think that the more people who wake up to this, the more we'll see a return to sanity. I
Hmm.
think um, it'll go the way of the alt-right and uh, the paleocons of um, the last 30 years. They've kind of come and gone and rebranded a couple times, and I think once people realize what's going on, they tend to kind of shrink back into the woodwork. So I hope that's what happens now. We'll see.
Hmm.
How do
Hmm.
you
Yeah,
think
that
comedy is and parody and satire? How are these unique instruments for dealing with this problem? This is very much the bread and butter of the Babylon Bee. What is it that you think it does?
Yeah, well, it is humor has a way of speaking to people in a way that their guard is down.
Hmm.
Um, Laughter is an involuntary response, and when you're laughing at a joke, you're kind of, at a very uh fundamental level, you're responding to the core of truth in that joke. And that's what's
hmm
been so effective about what we've done the last 4 years is, we've been able to be these people, these polemicists speaking truth into a culture that was very opposed to a lot of our ideas, but you say it in a very witty and disarming and, way. Um, it goes a lot further than like a 12-page, think piece. No one
Oh
reads those
no, my
anymore, right?
life is a waste.
you know
Does it,
No. Yeah.
as the managing editor there, does it ever annoy you that how many people will retweet the headlines but not read the article?
Yeah, well, that's how we make our money is by people clicking on the articles. So we always urge people to at least click on it so we get the web traffic, but
I'll start doing
um what
that.
most of our engagement, I think, um, comes from people just sharing our headlines in like group chats with their family and friends. Like
Hmm.
I
Hmm.
hear that from everybody is that most of the way people interact with our content is just like screenshots being shared with people. So I never get to see what that engagement looks like, but that's just anecdotally what I hear from a lot of people.
That
Um,
that's pretty
yeah,
accurate to my experience with it.
yeah, and that's fine. It's the headline is kind of the main product. That the copy is just filler to make it look more like a news site. So,
Well,
um,
that makes me feel a little bit bad though. We're freeloaders on this whole.
There was a
So
competition at the New York Post for writing the best headline, and we had Don Forst was Don what's I've suddenly forgotten her last name.
Goldstein.
Don Goldstein, who wrote the "That's Why the Lady's a Trump" when he married Melania. So so
Yeah.
we've got it's two master headline writers. That it's sort of
well,
weird.
I want to shake hands with whoever writes headlines for the New York Post because
Hmm.
those guys they know how to do clickbait
Yeah.
better
No,
than
they really
anybody.
do.
It's some of the most ridiculous stuff you'll ever see in the New York Post.
The,
Joel, you got to meet Dawn because she was the headline writer for the New York Post, and she got fired for being too conservative at the New York Post.
uh,
Um,
Oh
but
man.
on her, it was on her way out while she was carrying the boxes that she yelled that headline about the Trump thing, and then
yeah.
they're like, okay, oh, that's good, let's print
No
that.
kidding. Oh my gosh.
that was that was her
Yeah.
severance.
Oh, that's amazing.
So there's
Yeah, I need to know her.
a tightrope walk to walk when you're in comedy, but you have strong political positions. We've seen a lot of sort of people on the left really not succeed at walking it, right? Like they've gone
Hmm.
completely unfunny. Is
Hmm.
there like a balance where you want to do this sort of pushback on woke right, post liberal, theonomous stuff, but still be funny?
Yeah, that's a really important consideration, and it's always a danger for a comedian to think too highly of himself and their platform, um, eh, where you just become preachy.
Mm-hmm.
As satire, I think there's a little more allowance for that. I mean, we aren't pure comedy; we are political satire. So
Right.
our stuff is a little more opinionated than just pure comedy that can just be pointless and for no other reason than for laughter. But we do always try to make sure that funny comes first. Like we're never putting out a headline strictly to make a point and no other reason, unless like we'll do it rarely, like if we think it's that important. But um, that always takes a back seat to just being funny. It has to be funny. You have to laugh, and we also try not to be one note as well. We still do like the evangelical Christian church jokes. They don't get as much traffic anymore, but they're still there. We'll do sports jokes and everyday life jokes about our wives. You have to mix it up and never take yourself too seriously. Ultimately, if you're not making people laugh, you've kind of lost the plot there. So,
So what's your process for coming up with these witty headlines, these clever headlines? Are you responsible for most of them?
for some of them, yeah, I used to write a lot more than I do
Hmm.
now. Uh, but yeah, my I write quite a few of them. My editor in chief, Kyle Mann, he writes a few of them, and then we have maybe 12 or so part-time writers that we all share a common Slack channel, and we just pitch all day. So
Hmm.
I'm reading the news in the morning. I'll kind of send out some of the main news points that maybe we want to hit that day, and then it's just a pitch storm where we're getting hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of pitches and sifting through all that, maybe riffing on a pitch, iterating or kind of fine tuning a pitch to make it as punchy as possible. And for every 100 pitches, there might be one that's good enough to go on the site. So it's kind of a numbers game.
This is the first time I've heard of an actual productive Slack channel.
Yeah. Well, I'm actually more productive on my Slack than, we have our main headquarters is in Southern California, and I'll go there a few times a year to just kind of connect with the rest of the team and stuff. Our YouTube people and podcast people are out there. And when I'm in the office, I get nothing done.
Yeah.
I have to like be alone in my office on the Slack channel to get anything done.
We're part of the problem, aren't we?
J James, do you have any suggestions for a Babylon Bee
I
headline
would never.
about post liberals maybe?
I would never. No, I
Oh,
would.
okay,
I'm a dopey middle-aged Catholic professor. I could not have less of a finger on the pulse of the Babylon Bee
yeah.
audience.
Well, it's weird because we've debated internally about like how much do we even talk about this in our headlines, like this whole
Right.
post-liberal debate. It seems a little bit uh, kind of niche, where our larger audience might be kind of confused by it. You know, at what point does it become big or important enough to where like we start joking about it regularly? The
Hmm.
the disadvantage that we have, as opposed to like if you've ever seen SNL's Weekend Update, back when
Mhm.
Norm Macdonald was doing it, it was the greatest. They
Yeah.
had the
Golden
advantage of
age.
they would read the real headline, and then they would read the joke headline, the punchline. We don't have the advantage of prefacing our headlines with the real news. So
Sure.
it kind of has to be something that is already out there that people just know. Um, they know the setup already, and then our headline is just the punchline to it. And so, um, if this debate gets continues to get bigger, we'll probably have to address
Mhm.
it. But I don't know if we're there yet. We kind of play with it. We've
Yeah.
poked fun at Tucker and Candace a little bit
Yeah.
here and there. But we're monitoring the situation, I guess is
Well, I think it is good for you guys, like what you did, just to show everybody that you can tease everybody. Like
yeah.
you recently had the thing like about Trump taking it to the communists by seizing the means of production or something, whatever. And it was such a funny one.
Yeah. Yeah, it's you have to point your cannons in all directions, including at ourselves, and that's how we started. We were telling church jokes about our own Christian culture. There's so much in Protestant evangelical culture that's so silly and wonky, so you have to be able to make fun of yourself. It gives you a little more credibility to poke fun at the other side.
Is it a source of pride that you guys are responsible for Elon Musk owning Twitter?
Yeah. Um,
Completely
yeah,
forgot about that.
yeah. No, that was my joke actually. That was a headline I wrote that it was one of those things where USA Today had named Rachel Levine their Woman of the Year, and it was just so funny by itself. We're kind of throwing ideas back and forth in the writer Slack, like how do we even top this? It's so stupid. Like how do we come up with something more funny than what USA Today already did? So we'll give out fake awards every once in a while. Like every year, we make Donald Trump our Christian of the Year. Um, you know, Hillary Clinton was our Person of the Year one year, and then like in the copy of the article, it was like send help, like she's gonna kill me. Um, and so we decided to make Rachel Levine our Man of the Year. Um,
Uh-oh.
and that was misgendering, and
Yeah.
Twitter kicked us off. And that was something where had I been in charge, I don't know if I would have made the same decision that Seth Dillon made. I mean, he said we're not going to delete the tweet, and then he immediately publicly went and said we're not going to delete the tweet. So he painted himself into a corner, and kind of said, if this ruins our business, so be it. The truth is too important. So, like, hats off to him for that stand that he made. None of us thought it would result in what it did, but a few weeks later, Elon calls us, and you know, um, the rest is history. So,
Wow. I remember
for
somebody's
better
like,
or for worse,
are-
we'll see.
wasn't there some exchange in there where he's like, well, how much does it cost? It was
Yeah,
like on Twitter.
yeah,
It's
yeah,
like he's just
yeah,
got this
yes,
money, like his like Scrooge McDuck here. Like, well, let's see here.
yeah. Well, that was when he was kind of just starting to become a lot more outspoken and bold about how frustrated he was with wokeness. And he saw it as an existential threat to humanity. His whole thing, he's this weird autistic guy. He wants to keep human consciousness alive and multiplanetary so that when our star dies, then their consciousness will be in other solar systems. Like so like
Mhm.
okay, funny funny motivation, but hey, I'll take it. I'll take someone who loves humanity rather than most of the left who seems to want it to die. So
I think I remember you guys having him on your podcast and trying to convert him.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that
Good
that was
effort. It was
like
worth it, you know.
that was like like people took that the wrong way because it's kind of a trope in Baptist churches, a lot of Protestant churches. You kind of have this altar call at the end of the service, and it's like this high pressure sales thing. Come up and receive the Lord, and so at the end of every podcast, we would do like a fake altar call to our guests, like, and it was meant to kind of satirize that aspect of evangelicalism. And we had so many first time listeners to the podcast when Elon came on who just did not understand the reference or what we were doing or what we were making fun of, and they thought we were like genuinely like trying to convert him, and they were like, "You
Oh,
guys
okay.
really suck
Turning the
at
screws on
converting
Elon at
people.
the end.
That was the worst gospel presentation I've ever heard." He's like, "No, guys, it was a joke."
Hey, well, I was just thinking, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take, so just
Oh
Yeah.
no. The great
Well,
Michael Scott quote.
pray for Elon. I know he thinks about it. He's had conversations since that podcast with, with Seth and others about faith, and so, who knows? Anything could happen. It would be really cool if he came into the faith. I'm not even picky. If he wants to be Catholic instead of Protestant, that's okay too,
Could you imagine the cathedral he'd build? If you've ever been to Ave Maria, I taught there for 9 years. It's this Tom Monahan who started Domino's and and the Detroit Tigers and stuff. He built Ave
Yeah.
Maria, and the back of the church that he built looks like a rocket ship. And I think
Oh my
only
gosh.
Elon Musk could beat this by actually having a real rocket ship. Uh,
He could. The steeple could be a rocket ship. It would be perfect.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's I'm now like kind of into this idea where we get like a we get a Catholic church that could go into space.
Well, that's what was it? Battlestar Galactica. They had the Mormon Church in space there.
Oh
That
my
Oh, yeah,
gosh,
that's
anyway,
right.
yeah.
that's a good
Yeah, I forgot that
reference.
that was based off of the Book of Mormon. Yeah, that's right.
That's an old classic B headline. It's like Mormons still trying to distance themselves from the plot of Battlestar Galactica.
I didn't see that one. That's funny.
I'm going to Utah Valley University or later. I'm gonna have to save that one.
Some of the most polite hate mail I've ever received from Mormons. Like, I just normally I really love you, and but that joke was, just wasn't really quite there, and like,
Oh
yeah,
no.
nicest people in the world.
Yeah, that's been my
Did they
experience
politely
too.
request that you not refer to them as a Mormon church, but as the Church of Jesus Christ?
Yeah,
Um,
LDS, Latter-day
Yeah.
Saints. Yeah.
Th-
yeah,
Hmm.
I've
They are
gotten that one
split
a few
on that,
times.
I've heard though. I was actually talking to one and he said he didn't care if people use the word Mormon, but some people do. I mean, they've kind of split. They're kind of split on it.
Yeah, yeah. That was
Okay.
another old headline. It was like, um, Mormon really wishes there was a easier way to say Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Mormon. Yeah, that's it. The answer is Mormon.
Yeah, that's funny.
Yeah. All right.
All right.
So the story with this administration is that it's probably reaching the end of its ability to make big changes. Right, we're coming in pretty soon on the midterm elections, and so that's normally when the lame duck status really starts. What do you think's
Mhm.
next? Do you think this stuff is going to be what's next with neo-theonomy or Christian nationalism, or because it seems like everything's wide open, at least when it comes to Christian politics in America?
Um, Boy, what's
Yeah,
next? Well, as we approach the midterms, I think Trump, it really, if he wants to be successful, I think he needs to do a little more for the economy. And I think that there's been a little bit, there is a sense to where things are better, but there are still kind of like these chains that I feel like on the economy that just quite aren't, that it's still hard to buy a house. Interest rates are
yeah,
still up. Tariffs are a huge strain on imports. And even the I don't I want to stop immigration, but the fact that there's no immigrants coming in is a huge strain on a lot of small businesses that depend on labor. And so I think that ahead of the midterms, he's really going to have to. If it were me, I would do like a massive, like just a deregulation spree,
mm,
just completely unleash the economy as much as humanly possible, just deregulate everything, um, and really just kind of get things roaring again. I think that, Trump's contention right now is that there are a lot of things that need to be fixed first, and I agree with that. There's the whole deep state that needs to be dismantled. Project 2025 is well underway. They're going department by department trying um, to dismantle a lot of this stuff. I wish that Trump was a little more like Javier Milei in Argentina, just like taking an axe to literally everything. It seemed like he was doing that when Doge was in its heyday, at the beginning of the year, and that's slowed down. But there's this. It seems like there's kind of there's a division even within Trump's inner circle. Maybe I'm wrong, but I sense this, that there is a division within his inner circle between people who want to like dismantle and end a lot of this government bureaucracy, and people who want to control it. And that's the whole post-liberal
Hmm.
um, perspective, is that no, 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 guys, we don't want to destroy the ring. We want to use the ring. So I know that there are a lot of voices whispering in his ear, and sometimes I wonder if that's kind of what has led to some of the slowdown. I would love to see the Department of Education gone. Why isn't it gone? Why hasn't the building been razed already? Like I want the building torn down, you know. Um, and that's just me being impatient, I guess. But I do think he really has to inject some energy into the economy if he wants to do well in the midterms coming up.
Yeah.
Um, you know, as far as the fundamental debate, on the right, I don't know, man. It's like it's anyone's game right now. Online,
Yeah.
it seems like there's so much momentum in the post-liberal right. Um, but that might be a mirage. Online is different. So I guess we'll see.
Yeah, James. I mean, yeah, I'm with you on the sort of on that point for a standpoint of society at large. I think the more that comes to light about some of these more radical people that are in the ear of President Trump, even in his administration, the better, because I think a lot of the people even that vote for Trump wouldn't actually want any of this stuff that they want, right? If they knew that
Yeah.
they were doing this. Um, but yeah, James and I are also concerned about like how it affects the church, right?
Mm,
Like within if you bring in all these groypers, I don't know if you know Nick Fuentes,
yeah.
right? You
Yeah.
bring in all these groypers that are coming into the church, and some of them are going to seminary, and then we're going to become priests someday.
Mm.
This is going to be a problem. And it's
And
going to we're thinking from the standpoint of our church, it's going to hurt the church. And
Yeah.
I'm sure it's a similar issue like over on the Protestant side, if these white nationalists are actually going to hurt evangelization and all
yeah,
that.
that's sort of what you were
Mm.
getting at earlier about you go to Europe and it's like, well, we had these established Catholic churches in these European countries and they're all empty, right? They're museums now.
Mhm.
And that's the fruit of this kind of post-liberalism. That's one of the central contentions of the book that we're writing.
Mhm.
Mm.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
no, I'm sorry.
yeah, there's going to be that temptation, especially for churches on the decline, to cater to some of this crowd. I have seen some encouraging signs. I've seen a few people who have gone on Twitter saying, "Hey, I converted to Catholicism a year ago, and they weren't pro-white and anti-Jew enough for me, so I left." So I think as long as there's these churches are remaining biblical, and they're teaching sound doctrine, and they're not afraid to tell the truth. I think a lot of some of these bad faith actors that have entered the church for the wrong reasons will find their way out. It's like the parable of the sower in the
Yeah.
Gospels, where some of the seeds take, and some don't. But the worry is that you don't want them to do damage to the church in the meantime. Um, so it's a maybe less of a problem on the Protestant side right now. More in kind of like niche reformed circles.
Mhm.
Um, but it's there. It's always there. You just pastors and priests have to remain steady. They have to stick to God's word, and preach the truth fearlessly, no matter what the culture's doing. Remain steadfast, and remember that revival is a work of God. Like you're not going to manufacture a spiritual revival. You have to beg God for it. You have to beg for an outpouring of His Holy Spirit, and you know, that's what's going to lead to a growth of the church. The people who join the church for political reasons, it's not going to last because there's Christianity involves taking up your cross. You
Yeah.
know, we don't want that. And so yeah.
Yeah. Oh, amen. James, you got anything?
No, I just the parable of the sower has been one of the sort of scriptural touchstones for me this whole time. I've been dealing with this sort of thing, and um, I guess I've always seen the people you're describing, people who join because they want to join a racist and anti-Jewish church
Yeah.
as like seeds on the path, right? They're gobbled up by crows,
Yes. Yes.
and the to bear good fruit, right, requires the seed to sacrifice itself, right? It's amazing how often when talking to folks that they're sort of averse to the cross. It's the reason for the political solution is to avoid it, right? If we can just have someone come down from the cross and command an army of angels to defeat our enemies, right? And I think we were talking about that with Victoria
Victoria.
Holmes last week. Um,
Hmm.
so yeah,
Yeah, it's like there's the temptation has always been there, to use God in that way. We're supposed to take up our cross, not hold it up as a totem, a political totem. And that was like that was the sin of the Jews that rejected Christ. But they fell prey to their own kind of their ethnic pride. They wanted Jesus to be a political leader to overthrow the Roman Empire. And Jesus said, "No, I'm here to save you from your sins."
and
And
Barabbas was a revolutionary in the same way we're seeing a demand for post-liberal order. No,
yeah.
maybe I'm going too far.
Yeah. Yeah, Barabbas. Yeah, this is the patron saint of the post-liberals.
Oh no. Well, they were calling our guest last week Pontius Pilate. There was I'm not sure if you've watched any of her stuff, but I got a lot of people who were like this. Her name's Victoria Holmes, and she's in her 20s. And there was a guy that was trying to ask her out. So first thing he did is he criticized her political theology, called her Pontius Pilate, and then say, "Hey, do you want to go out?" It's like, buddy,
Oh man,
got to work on that one.
the
Yeah.
dating world is bro. I'm lucky that my wife and I got married when we did. We're going to be 15 years this December, and it's like
Oh, congratulations.
I
Congratulations.
can't imagine dating now. It sounds
Yeah.
like an absolute nightmare.
Last
Yeah, I met
chapter
my
out of
wife in
Nam.
person too. We've been married 12 years, and now it's like
Yeah.
nobody meets in person, apparently.
No, it's insane. Yeah, it used to be, you met through family or the
Hmm.
church. Then it was, through, you know, uh, community groups and things like that. And like no one's getting together anymore. It's all online. It's awful.
Hmm.
Yeah, shop for wives the way you shop for clothes.
Yeah,
I feel
it's
bad for the
brutal.
short guys because like apparently women like filter out people who are short now.
Yeah, there's
Yeah.
a
Oh my goodness, it's terrible.
And
there's a somebody decided to an economist with way too much time on his hands decided to establish the Gini coefficient, which measures inequality,
Uh,
and apparently it's worse on dating sites than in like the most post-colonial African countries. You know, you know. Well, that's
Short
all I've
guys
got,
are the most
Tom.
oppressed class, man. That's our new that needs to be the new politics is the proletariat of the short.
That's yeah. That's Trump's gonna promise, height to short kings, right? We're gonna
Yeah,
have.
reparations for short people.
yeah, now we got to measure these Groyper guys. I bet you. I wonder if that's going on. But
I
all
think
right.
that, well, I think that's kind of funny because I do think that I don't want to like lean too hard into the whole incel stereotype, but I think that there's a lot of sexual frustration playing itself out in our politics right now for
Mhm.
sure.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I think I know he gets so much grief, but I think it was a noble effort of like Jordan Peterson to try to reach out to these, to the younger men and give them some advice on how to succeed, because
Yeah.
that's where all this resentment's coming out of. Yeah.
Yeah, he did a really wonderful thing. Saved a lot of guys from it. And it's been sad to see how people have turned on him
Hmm.
the way they have. I still very much admire him.
Yeah. I hope he gets healthy. The guys in
Yeah.
agony up. Prayers for anyone watching, prayers for
Yeah.
that guy. He's had some
Can't
health
catch a break.
issues. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'm all done here, Tom. We might want to set Joel loose
Yeah,
to
well,
his Slack
Joel's
channel.
time is valuable, and
Yeah.
I mean, he's doing us a huge favor here. Who are we kidding? I mean, we appreciate that you came on here, Joel.
Oh, it's
Or
my pleasure.
Mr.
Thanks for
Barry,
having
can we
me.
call you Joel? Or
Yeah.
Yeah, call
It's
me
too
Joel.
late.
It's really seriously though. It is nice to meet some allies because it can feel kind of lonely out there sometimes, and you
Amen.
get a lot of hate for this stand for the truth and for American ideals, true American ideals. So I appreciate what you guys are doing too, and I'll look for the book too. You said you're still working on it, or are you finished, or where?
Yeah. It's
James,
me.
what's the
It's
update?
yeah, shut up. So it's my stuff that needs to be finished. Actually,
Okay.
um, I have the copy here from last night, staying up, smoking cigars, trying to crank through this. So
Yeah.
once I'm off this call, I'm gonna hopefully have drafts for both chapters finished, and we'll have a functioning manuscript. What we're
Yes.
It's a bold title. Why post-liberalism failed? Like you're pretty much anticipate. Are you saying it already has? Are you anticipating it will by the time the book releases, or like?
Well,
Um,
that's a great question. So we're playing off of Patrick Deneen's book, Why Liberalism Failed. So we are
Mm,
like, why postalism failed, and the joke of it is that they are definitely not the first people to try this. And everybody who's tried it in
uh,
the past, it has, if you're looking at it from a standpoint of Christianity and the gospel and or even Catholicism, it has failed. It's failed from the standpoint of charity and justice and the other quieter virtues and faith as well.
mhm.
So yeah, that's the sense in which we use it. So we figured if Deneen's allowed to say why liberalism failed, we're allowed to say why post-liberalism failed.
There's
that's
you
great.
know
Well, that's a very powerful narrative. I mean, a lot of these guys, a lot of these post-liberals are real big into history, and they like to kind of cherry pick history, and
Mhm.
for you to be able to give some historical examples of how this same movement has come and gone in the past and how it's failed again and again. It kind of takes some of the novelty and the sheen off of this movement. You realize that it's nothing new and cool and hip. It's just like a new iteration of this crusty old thing that doesn't work. That's the thing you got to do is you got to make it uncool. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
yeah.
That's such a big part of this battle is you know for people help people realize how dorky and uncool it is, and I think that'll be half the issue.
Can you remember that? Do you want to do a one of the blurbs for us?
Totally.
All
Yeah.
right,
Oh
sweet,
wait,
sweet.
wait, we can't be cutting deals during the
You have to
podcast.
Yeah.
you have to finish the book first. So
Yeah,
that's
that's
that's the
right.
only thing.
Maybe you can
Joel,
make
Few
it
more
that
make
was real
cigars.
bad. What you just said about finishing the book. I mean, it's one thing to hear from Tom or our editor, but to hear from Joel Barry, is like finish your book. Like, oh.
No, no.
Yeah.
I take your time and do it right, and I'll look
Yeah.
forward to checking it out.
All right. Thank you so much for coming on the Why Post Liberalism Fail podcast. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Also visit Babylon B. Although, who are we kidding? If you listen to us, you're definitely going to that.
But remember to click it. You
Click
guys,
Yeah,
through.
everyone start
click the
clicking it.
article. Yeah, just stay
Yeah,
on the
click.
site for a few seconds so we get the metrics. That's all we need.
That's right. Thank you so much.